Coming up, what an excellent day for excuses. Well, howdy folks, and welcome to Minute 55 of the Exorcist Minute, a show where we endeavor to examine, extrapolate, and excavate The Exorcist, minute by terrifying minute. My name is Lester Ryan Clark.
And I'm Keenan Diaz.
And we'll be your holy guides on this journey through what some have called the scariest movie of all time. Okay, so our minute begins with Dr. Klein saying, "Hold her tight."
And it ends with Dr. Tanny saying, "You've heard the story. Same thing here."
But what story is that? What story have these doctors come up with? Have they wheeled out on a rickety overhead projector to show us that all this stuff we just witnessed is completely normal and nothing out of the ordinary? We'll get to that. But first, let's go back to the aforementioned normal scene. We got Reagan screaming, "Mother, please," and Dr. Klein stepping in with another one of his needles. We got Carl and Dr. Tanny holding Reagan down, and then we got a close-up of Carl and Dr. Klein as he administers this shot.
So this is more of Reagan's actual point of view, right? So we talked in the previous minute. We talked a lot about how we get things that are close to a point of view shot, but this is the first one I can remember of Reagan's actual point of view.
Yes, this actually looks like she is looking up at Dr. Klein and Carl, right? Someone she loves, someone she trusts, right? And yeah, they're pinning her down, and
we are getting stabbed by this shot. Yeah, by this.
Yes, we are. Yeah. But yeah, so, and then meanwhile, Chris is being taken out of the room by Sharon. And I wish I could hear what she was saying, or again, maybe I don't. It sounds so full of anguish. And then they reach the doorway and Chris actually like grabs at it, right? She clings to it. She does not want to leave. As painful as this scene is, she can't bear to leave her daughter alone, right? She wants to stay, even if she can't do anything. And that speaks again to that resilience, that persistence, that abiding force that is almost invisible, but which is felt so strongly sometimes throughout the course of this story, that refusal to leave, even if you've lost the battle, even after you've been shown that you are powerless in that particular situation. These characters will not leave. And again, like I would call this a loss for Captain Howdy, because like look at his behavior in the previous minute. Like look at what he was trying to do. He was trying to repulse, he was trying to repel, he was trying to turn Reagan into this fearful thing that they would be disgusted by. And all he managed to do was make them be afraid for her, right? Not of her, right? Like he shocked them, yes. Sure. But that shock wore off pretty quick when they saw how much Reagan was suffering, right?
I don't. That feels so strange for me to think of it as a loss for Captain Howdy. It doesn't feel like a win for them, which I know are two separate things, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like a win for the humans. That's really interesting to me. Certainly, they don't think of this as having been a positive experience.
No. This is definitely not like it's not. I would agree with you. I would say that this is a loss for Captain Howdy, and this kind of goes into like a bigger thing that I'm gonna I guess reveal later on as we get deeper into this, right? But no, I also agree with you that this is not a win for them either.
It's like a scorched earth sort of a win, I guess.
Yeah, right? Like this is, and we're going to find...
Like we burned the village down, but we didn't take the county or something.
Right, yeah. And we're going to find out a little more about like his plans. I'm talking about Captain Howdy, right? We're going to find out more about his plans later on and what he's actually trying to accomplish, and how this line of like, keep away, right? Because he shouts like, keep away, right? Might have a couple of meanings, but like right now, Chris is not listening, right? She's not going to stay away. And it actually takes Sharon to physically remove her from the room, and she still fights to stay.
Did I miss something? Did the doctors ask her to leave, or what do you think? I don't think that happens, right? It's just sort of, no. Sharon realizes like, well, there's nothing we can do here.
Yeah. I think it's a decision possibly by Sharon here, which again, like more Sharon stuff. I like seeing the Sharon stuff. But yeah, like the doctors are busy. The doctors are occupied with Carl trying to administer aid to Reagan. So they're not even, like, I don't know, maybe in the confusion and chaos, we might have like heard Dr. Klein shouting, he's like, get her out of here. Or,
I don't think so though, right? I think it's all Sharon. And yeah, again, I think Sharon's a fascinating character as an employee who's a little bit more than an employee. Like of all the other things we could have had, right? Like this could have been, Chris's sister or something,
Right.
or Chris's best friend from high school, or that's not what we've decided that Blatty has. This is an employee and who lives with them, and how quickly Sharon can get attached to this little girl as someone who isn't, is also being employed by them, also making money off of it. Like, I don't know how Sharon. Right. How does Sharon refer? Like, this is my boss? I don't know if she says that, right?
Yeah. And it's interesting that you point that out, right? Like, because if we had decided that she was a sister or an aunt or some kind of like relation to either, well, I guess it would be both, right? To Chris and Reagan, right? Then her resolve would be she would be called to task in a different way. You know what I mean? Like this is your sister who's going through this, or this is your niece who is going through this. And like, what does that say about you? All of your reactions, all of the, whether you stay or go, whether you, help out or not, like that's going to be a judgment on you. But like here, it's like,
but even again, if she were like a family friend who'd been around forever, like that's different. This is someone who has taken this as a job and then like, this starts to happen. Sharon could be like, well, I'm going back to LA, right? Because like this goes beyond my pay grade, but that's not what Sharon does. She's in this family despite herself, probably.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, and it could be, it could be this way for all of them, right? I'm talking about Sharon. I'm talking about Willie. I'm talking about Carl, right? Like, and again, like I don't know how much longer I can kind of like keep this held back. This big thesis statement that I have about this movie, but like, yeah, just folks pay attention.
Keep them listening.
Keep them listening.
Keep them wanting more. Yeah.
Keep them on their toes. But no, like I have something. I have a lot of things to say about the fact that like none of these characters are leaving. Right? They're all sticking around, even the ones who aren't like quote unquote like blood related. Right? Like that says something. That's like a very, very quiet and like inconspicuous statement that Blatty is making, and that maybe Friedkin even picked up on accidentally. Like he,
it's just sort of in the fabric of the things.
Right. But it's something that like, and I've read papers that Blatty has written later on that kind of address this and kind of like confirm my like belief about like what the heart of this story is.
And that might even be extrapolated to Father Dyer and Detective Kinderman. You're saying, yeah,
precisely. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting.
So yeah, so like I'm dropping these hints, folks. Like, but listen in, like about like the, I guess for now we can call it the like the persistence of good, the resilience of good, right? The power that again, like we've talked about it before. It's not always like bombastic and like to rival, the kind of like the loudness and the crudeness of the evil here, right? We're gonna have like the power of Christ, we're gonna have that bombacity, later on, but. Pay attention to these like quiet moments of goodness, right? Just the like not anything active, but just like the not leaving parts, right?
Okay, so again, here's my inexperienced or hacky screenplay impulses, right?
Okay.
Like, we want to make this a thing. We'd make this a scene, and afterwards, after Sharon drags Chris out of there, then it's Chris saying, "Thank you so much for being there for me, Sharon.
Right,
I didn't know who I was in there, and luckily you're with me, and
yeah.
I just don't know why you don't go away." But Chris, no, it's Miss McNeil. I mean, Chris.
Yeah, that's what it would be, right?
Right.
Please call me Chris.
Right, exactly. And they hold hands. They look.
We're more than just boss and employee. We've been through the fire now.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. I if anything, I thought of you as another daughter, but now I see like you've helped me raise my daughter.
Oh my God, and that's when. And that's when Captain Howdy in the other room we hear it's like, oh, shut up.
Oh, God. We know.
I'll go. Do you just want me to go? I'll go. You're making me sick. Yeah, all this sappiness. Oh, yeah. But okay, so then the door is closed, and this is such a great cut. I can't get over how the door literally closes the scene, right? On one side of that door is like noise and chaos and anguish and screaming, and on the other side, out in the hall, is a new scene, completely silent, completely still. I love this cut so much. We have closed the door on all that chaos, and now we are They're out here, and we don't even see Chris and Sharon at first, right? Like we just see this corner of the hallway, and we're down low again, as if we're on the steps, perhaps like walking up the stairs, and we've stopped to peer through the bars of the banister. Are these prison bars? Like, are we outside the prison looking in, or is it the other way around? You know,
are you locked in here with me, or am I locked in here with you?
Precisely, right?
Like you know, we have a similar thing in Bellevue when we have Father Karras going through there, and it's not just like he's trapped or something. It's also like he can't help. Like these bars are separating you. Like similar to that those shots of Chris in the radiologist safe area. I suppose, right? Like these things that are separating people aren't just like for protection, or they're often like impediments to compassion.
Right. So it's not just like keeping you from like being free. It's like you are not free to help somebody
you're
else.
Powerless to intervene. Right.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I just realized this as we're looking at this shot. So that we just completely forget about the attic, don't we? Like we don't like the attic is right above Reagan's door there, like the door of the attic. And we have just the movie just completely moves on from there. Like we don't, again, like bad, inexperienced, inconfident screenwriter would be like, you know, it's so funny. we thought all of our attention above there, and look, it's just a foot lower than that. We get Reagan's door. Oh, Miss McNeil, you shouldn't be so hard on yourself. No, Sharon, call me Chris.
Yeah.
There's like in our version, there's like 3 or 4 scenes where Chris says, "Sharon, call me Chris."
It's like they forget. Like,
but every time we get the same like shot of Sharon, shot of Chris, shot of Sharon.
Right.
Really making that a moment.
Yeah, you're right. Like I was thinking, like because in this image, like we see the hooky stick pull down thing.
Oh yeah, there's our friend. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like leaning there, and it's like, does anybody need me anymore? Like,
yeah, we never hey, let's go catch the ultimate evil up there. That's where the queen is, or something like that. Yeah, we never ever address it again, I think, right?
Yeah, the attic is not a thing anymore. No,
right?
Yeah, even Karras comes over and he's like, well, let's get a look at that attic. No, he doesn't care, right? Like, and Marin's not like, oh yeah, there's something in that attic. Like, nobody cares about that attic anymore.
Right.
Meanwhile, the mice are up there. Right?
Yeah, they're finally.
Yeah. Remy's up there.
Remy's up there. Ratatouille's up there. Right. That's just to piss off people. Like, I understand.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying.
And the Exorcist, he's up there.
Yeah, he's there. The Babadook is up there, and Bride of Chucky and everybody.
Yep, all of them. So we're talking about. Our view of this bedroom door, right? And it's separated by these bars of this banister, right? And beyond those bars is the door to Reagan's bedroom. But right now, all is silent from inside, right? I also want to say, this is the first shot of a new scene. And it's after a scene where I literally had to pause, rewind, just so I could catch like all of the stuff that is going on, that is going by so fast, and all at the same time. And this right here is the polar opposite of that. Like, our first shot in this scene lingers for a long time on the stillness of this hallway, after which we have like another lingering shot. And hey, look at this, folks. We see the same hallway from a different angle. And look at this. Chris and Sharon are right outside the door, right? They had to leave the room, but they still could not bring themselves to go too far. They are literally right outside. And I can almost see
Chris's bedroom is right there. So
yeah. They could have gone there, right? Or they could have gone downstairs, right? Had some brandy or whatever, right, to calm their nerves, right? I can actually almost see that scene. Sharon's like, Chris, you want to go downstairs and have some tea or some water or a cigarette to calm your nerves? And Chris is like, no. I'm staying right here until they come out. And also, call me Chris.
Oh.
It's like, but I did. I was like, I'm not leaving, not without my daughter. Isn't that a Sally Field thing?
That's
not without my daughter.
Movie, not without my daughter.
There we go. It's coming around. It's coming around. We're talking about Sally Field the whole time.
So let's look at a biography now of Harvey Fierstein. Harvey Fierstein is a playwright and actor, most notable for his Torch Song trilogy.
Oh my God. I feel like this show, Keenan, I feel like this show is being taken over by Captain Howdy. He doesn't like us talking about him.
Right, giving away his secrets.
Right. And so he's like whispering in our ears, in our little headphones, and he's like, hey, talk about Sally Fields.
She's
like,
great.
She's really awesome. He's a fan of Sally Fields, right?
Yeah,
like, because who isn't? There's nobody on this earth or above the earth or under the earth or who isn't, right?
Absolutely. I don't want to hear from those people if they don't like Sally Fields.
Right. There's a special place in hell for those people. But yeah, no, he is here with us, Keenan, and he is distracting us, and he is trying to keep us from talking about because he knows what's going to happen at the end, right? So he doesn't want us to get there. God, okay. So, but yeah, like I said, this is the first shot of a new scene, right? Mm-hmm. And it could not be more different from the other ones, right? Like it's lingering on this hallway, this corner, like right by Reagan's room, and then it's lingering on Chris and Sharon. And yeah, again, like this is kind of like proof to my whole thesis thing is that they didn't stray far from the room. Mm-hmm. They are literally on that little step, on that little like first landing, right? And they're sitting there right outside. And we have no way of knowing how long they've been out there, right? Long enough for whatever's going on in the room to quiet down, right? They're wearing the same clothes, but Chris looks exhausted. She looks done in. And the beginning of this shot is really still. Chris is like a statue. And I think that's where our eye is going to fall naturally. It's going to fall on Chris and just like how she looks, right?
Yeah, part of it is Sharon is looking over at Chris. So if our eye happens to make the wrong decision or what have you and go to Sharon, then we're told to go to Chris.
Yeah. And, but like even then, right, like we see that she's been looking at Chris this whole time, with this mixture of pity and also like this shared anguish, which we don't see at first. And then she moves, she looks down or she begins to look down. And that's like the only movement from these two is that she begins to look down, right? She's starting to look down in like, I don't know, despair or just kind of like her own, she's going to like, deal with her own thoughts right now. Right.
I mean, she's like, she's thinking about her paycheck. She's thinking about like, when are we,
okay,
when are we going to get paid so I can get out of here?
It's an hour after quitting time. How do I bring this up nicely?
Right.
So, yeah. Ms. McNeil, do you have the time? I left my watch in there, and I don't want to go back and get it. So, like, do you know what time it is? Like, oh gosh, it's like
it's so late.
Yeah, it's really late. Huh. Yes. So, Miss McNeil, please call me Chris.
Oh.
And no, you're staying here.
Right.
But no, okay, sorry guys. Like we're making so many jokes, but like it's just it's hard. This is a heavy minute. So if you look at this, right? So Sharon, she begins to look down. She doesn't even get all the way down. And that's when we hear the door. And again, watching this in like microseconds, we see that like at the sound of that door, both women have a reaction, and it's actually very different, right? Sharon sort of starts, and she looks hopefully towards it, right? Like, and maybe just because I'm pausing and I'm looking at this thing like insanely close, right? I see that Chris goes from being completely exhausted and done in to high alert,
absolutely,
in like a split second. Like there's this frame before she turns completely around, and you see in her face, it's like, all right. Now we get some goddamn answers, right? And yeah, so they both stand up, and the camera stands up with them, which is weird. But like, and out of this room come two little boys who look like they got to explain to mom why her daughter is broken, right? Like
that is a fantastic way of putting it. Yes.
They look like they are in so much trouble. Like they broke a window or something like that, right? Like, and Klein is rubbing the back of his head, like in this classic pose. Like you see it in animation all the time, right? Like when a character is feeling embarrassed or guilty about something, right? And Dr. Tanny is very much like hanging back.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, I'm gonna let my big brother like deal with this and talk to mom. Like, oh my God. Right.
I mean, I'm just the robot brother.
Yeah. So. I'm just the robot brother. I'm just, I'm the precious third child. But like, yeah, just like feeling so embarrassed or guilty about something, right?
Yeah, they are teeny tiny in the back there. It's those two men, and they are like maybe a tenth of the frame is them, where Chris and Sharon are about almost half of the screen is them.
Right. Yeah. And so Dr. Tanny, Tiny Dr. Tanny, right? he closes the door, and they sort of just kind of like stand there, and we cut to a shot from behind them on the other side of the hallway, and Chris is all the way at the far end, almost in darkness, right? We're talking about shadows. We're talking about that German expressionist, stuff, and I didn't even notice this, Keenan. This is when Sharon kind of like takes her leave. She sort of like slips away quietly and heads down the stairs, probably to give Chris some privacy.
Right.
But again, it also
mumbling
serves
something about having an appointment with the horseman.
Right. It's like I gotta
see a man about a horse.
Right. Gotta see. Yeah, literally. You hear Captain Howdy from the room. He's like, "Ayo,
Ayo."
I understood that reference.
Yeah, but I'd like that shot of the men's point of view and denying them Chris and Sharon's real feeling, because they're like, they're trying to like feel out Chris and Sharon, right? Like, oh God,
right.
are they mad at us? Of course they are, but
of course,
how do we start to broach this conversation, and they don't get any information back from the ladies.
Right. And yeah, like it's just so like expertly done how Sharon just kind of like slips away, like very, very quietly, right?
Right.
And it's probably like in like story wise, it's to give Chris some privacy, right? Because this is a sensitive subject. But again, also like technical wise, like it isolates her in the face of these two men, right? These two doctors whom she has entrusted with her daughter, right? And you can even see Chris like watch Sharon go with this like sad expression, right? But then she turns her attention to Klein as he says she's heavily sedated. And we cut again, and now we're looking at both doctors as he continues, and he says she'll probably sleep through tomorrow. And again, with Tanny in the back, sort of like adjusting himself, sort of like redawning that air of authority. They're both like slowly trying to put back the mantle of doctor and authority figure, right? Like, so they're going from boys to men.
Right. But they left their jackets in the other room. They left their sports coats in the other room. So good luck trying to be grown-ups, little boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Tanny doesn't know where to put his hands, right?
Yeah. So trying to put this like hands on hips type thing that's going on.
Yeah,
here.
I guess their winter coats are in there and their sports jackets, right? So they've lost like 2 layers of clothes that are inside because they come in with their full winter clothes on.
Yes.
Right.
So now they're just small little men trying to act like they know what they're talking about.
Right. And try to put on this like united face, right? Like this is the both of us saying that. But as you say, like as Sharon goes, Klein steps forward, so he's a little bit separated on the plane from Tanny.
Right.
So he's like, it's his job to sort of take the point here, right? And like go closer, but Tanny's like on his side, but still like, if this guy fucks up, I'm back here, right? I'm not quite with this yet.
Yeah. I just want Klein to say something, and then we just like in the back we see like an expression from Tanny. It's like, what? It's like she's heavy. Like she's probably going to sleep until the morning. She is. Like I mean she is. Yeah. Yes.
Like
that's
a Kenan Thompson type reaction that just sort of like look at.
Lee, I don't know what this guy's talking about.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Okay. So we cut back to Chris. And again, that like resolve like made so much more clear after we've seen the like kind of like clueless expressions of the doctors, right? Like she's got this like steely gaze locked on Klein as she asks what was going on in there. How could she fly off the bed like that? And I love how helpless and plaintive she sounds. And how it does not match at all with her face, with like the way she's standing, with the way she's holding herself. Like if you just play the sound and you close your eyes, you would think that she's like begging, she's pleading for help. But if you just watch the scene without sound, you can see that she is not pleading for help. She is demanding answers. And she does not break eye contact with Klein until Tanny speaks. And again, it's this look like, okay, now you go, you speak, tell me what's going on, right?
Yeah, but she's again where we had Dr. Klein in previous minutes, like almost center punch, but not quite. Like in that hero position, now she's in that position. She's the center of the frame, and they have to get through her to even get permission to go home, right? To get their jackets or anything, right? And she has all of this, like, yeah, you're right about the voice disconnect, but she has all this wound up energy, right?
Yes,
like a watch spring.
Yeah, and all you got to do is look at what she's doing to, like, whatever that is. Is that a tissue or a handkerchief?
Well, it was, I think,
Yeah.
at the beginning of the scene, it was something physical, and now it's completely destroyed, right?
Yeah. What it's supposed to be is Dr. Klein's neck. But
yeah, because she has it in the previous scene where she's been in the room with Reagan,
right.
And she's beginning to destroy it, and by the end of this, it's tiny teenies.
Yeah,
Teeny-Tiny-Taney-Sized.
Yeah, right. But yeah, like, yeah. So, and she's also like, we're looking at her face and she's got this like set to her chin and her mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like she turns to Tanny, you know, and awaits his explanation, but she's also got this like, you better not be giving me some like pathological bullshit, right? To which he says, pathological stage can induce abnormal strength, right? Accelerated motor performance. He then begins to tell that old chestnut of, you know, like that old story about the 90-pound woman saving her child from under the wheel of a truck. And you can see as soon as as he starts to go into that story, Chris sort of like allows herself to listen. She sits down on the edge of that dresser, or maybe she like leans against it, and she is once again warily placing trust back into the hands of these doctors, but not fully, not completely. That look says that like she's listening, but it's also in the tone of like, go on, I'm listening.
It's like she would like to believe them, but knows that she's not going to, right? Like she's like,
right.
Okay, I would love to, like you say, it's the old chestnut, and like at this point, people have already heard this, which is what I want to talk about. Like this is an old story. So when he starts that sentence, she's like, okay, I've heard this before. God, I hope that's true, right?
Yeah.
because if he's wrong, then oh my goodness, who knows?
Yeah. And yeah, folks, and we're not saying that the story is bullshit, right? Like, but like Chris, we're skeptical of whether or not it has anything to do with what's going on here.
Well, I was skeptical enough of the story to see how much this is backed up by evidence. So,
oh, okay.
All right. I have found, this is hysterical strength. This is the Wikipedia article for.
It actually uses the word hysterical.
That's what it's called. Hysterical.
Like as in hysterectomy, as in uterus. Like
right.
Okay.
This mother's being hysterical. Now, so what are the parts of this story that you would need to have happened for it to count for you, Lester, as being true and not an urban legend? Like, what are the key parts of it? If it's two buddies and they're drunk and a power wheel falls on them. And one of the other ones is able to lift 80 pounds. Like, does that count? Like what are the key parts of this to test before we see if this has actually ever happened before?
I would say now, if
does it have to be a 90-pound mother,
no,
a child? Yeah. What do you need?
I don't think that factors in. I think it is. It definitely is coming off as like a mind over matter thing. When one person loves another person or cares for another person so much that their physical body kind of like takes a backseat to whatever they need to do. And so like suddenly now their brain is pumping, you know, their body full of the chemicals it needs to like lift that car or, you know, move that object or save that, you know, child, you know, is usually a child from like a tiger or something like that. Right. And I can see that happening. And I can see like afterwards that person's body is going to be wrecked, right? Like they're not going to realize probably what's happening is they're not noticing the pain of what they are physically doing because that is secondary to saving the child, right?
Okay. So does it have to be a child for this to count? Because here's my thing: if it is one woman lifting a car to save her child, then I can only find one incident that's named in the entire history of the world where that's the case that's happened.
Okay.
And it is after The Exorcist came out. So that kind of breaks this. So the one instance where I can find with people's names and like, you know, newspaper clippings saying this happened is in 1982 in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and Mrs. Angela Carvalho lifted a car off of her teenage son while he was trying to change the tire. He was underneath the car. So the jack had fallen onto her 16-year-old child, and she lifted the car inexplicably. So again, that's after The Exorcist came out. So, you know, that might be a result of, you know, now news stories are there forever, right?
Yeah.
After a certain point in the internet, they're there forever. They're hard to take down. But that's the only instance I can find of a mother by herself pulling a car off of her child. There are other, crazy instances, and I'm basing this mainly off of this Wikipedia article, but I did other research there. A lot of them are talking about the events that are already listed here. So this seems to be the most complete version of them. There was an instance in 2006 where a mother fought a polar bear, like you were talking about, like fighting a lion or fighting a wolf, right? So that was Lydia Angiou saving her children, or at least fighting off a polar bear long enough for a hunter to take the shot and kill the polar bear. Right. There are a bunch of stories of people lifting up cars. Oftentimes they are men or they are women in groups with other men. So that is a little bit harder to say, oh, that was this hysterical strength that's because of the love of it. And sometimes these are strangers where people have lifted up cars off of strangers. So it doesn't necessarily need to be, that love overpowering you and binding you to it. I saw one instance that was again, later, this is when they were shooting Magnum PI in Hawaii, and there was a helicopter that had crashed, and one man lifted the 1,400-pound helicopter in order to save the pilot, which is pretty extraordinary.
Yeah.
But is not quite the same as the what we've been told the story is, I would say, of the love of the mother giving her superhuman strength temporarily.
Right. And I don't it's I think that part of it is maybe we're back to causation and correlation, right? And talking about I think whatever it is, like the desire to do something like seemingly superhuman, I think I do believe that our bodies are more capable than we know.
Yes.
And there are things that we think we cannot do, that we think are impossible, but given the right motivation. And for that mother, it might be the love of her child. But for somebody else, it might be, I don't know, something completely different. It might be like the need to like survive, just save your own life, or to like you're saying, like save a random stranger or something like that.
Yeah, you're in that position. You're like, oh my goodness, and you go into flight or flight, right? Fight or flight. Yeah.
Or now it's a fight, flight, or freeze. Or now there's fawn also. There's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn.
Oh, what's fawn?
Fawn is like when you like ingratiate yourself towards the thing that is going to eat you up. Like it's like, hey, don't eat me up. Like we're buddies. Wow. I'm your friend. And
Oh, that's really interesting. That I haven't heard of this. I'm just sort of guessing. Sorry, you're on the air. But is that's the kind of thing about like when people are like sexually harassed and they end up smiling against their will, and then afterwards they're like, why the hell did I do that? Right?
Yeah. Right. Like and like just this instinct of like this may make the threat go away. Right. I don't know, but I'm just gonna like take a gamble here. Right. But like ultimately, and that is like incorrectly like viewed as like, oh, she smiled,
right?
It's like these, these assholes who are like taking advantage of that. That's ammunition for them to say that like that they weren't doing anything wrong. But like, but no, it's an animal thing of like. I guess we don't have like a definitive say on it, but like, we grew up and it was fight or flight, and then it became fight, flight, or freeze. And now the latest thing that I'm hearing is fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, right? And you might also have that like with children and parents like in an abusive like relationship or something like that, or like even like a hostage situation or something like that. Like that could be what's that called?
Stockholm syndrome.
Stockholm syndrome, right? Yeah, like if I'm friendly towards you, then that might. I don't know, like give me a chance to get away, or hey, maybe I could just melt your heart and you won't kill me.
Right, and that seems to have happened sometimes. So it does seem to work, but you're of course you're not consciously thinking about any of this when you're going in.
No.
The point is that your all of your systems take over, your sympathetic systems and everything just take over and control you. Right. That might explain one of these sad. This is very sad. Worse than hostage situations. So sometimes I laugh when I tell this because it's so awful.
Okay.
So I apologize.
So just putting this up front. Yeah, we're putting this up front because like whatever Keenan is about to say, now you got me laughing.
Exactly, because it's so terrible. But there are some small mammals when they get cornered who end up grooming themselves. And it's like, so when they get cornered by like a predator or something, like their system takes over and they're like, I don't know what to do. And so they just sit there and make themselves more vulnerable. Which is just so awful. Yeah. And they start like licking the back of their hands and not moving. And then that just gives the predator this chance, to come in and eat them. It's awful, right? I mean, like that's their evolution and their instinct working completely in the wrong direction and getting them eaten.
And it's not like what you're saying. It's not like a calculated thing, like in hopes that they'll like feel sympathy or anything like that.
But isn't that just terrible? Isn't
Yes.
that just the worst thing?
Oh my
Like
God.
they're just sitting in this corner and they're just like, well, gotta be clean. Yeah, they just don't know any better, right?
Oh no.
Yeah, they
gosh.
just can't think, right? So, anyways, I agree with you that like the body takes over. They with this hysterical strength idea, they were thinking in the old days it was like adrenaline in your adrenal glands. But now they think it's more like norepinephrine. So just, again, like taking over as part of the fight or flight or freeze or fawn. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, a repeated idea of this over and over again is that this is where Jack Kirby invented the Hulk, because he claims that he saw a woman lift a car off of her baby.
Huh.
But before The Exorcist, I'm having trouble finding as much as Jack Kirby says, and this is what made him think of the Hulk, and this power inside of you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we don't have corresponding evidence of that woman, in a newspaper article or anything. So I don't want to call Jack Kirby a liar or anything, but I'm saying that like his claim that he says he witnessed this, not that he heard it. Right, because everyone has heard this story, as Dr. Tanny saying, like everyone knows this story. But Jack Kirby says he saw it, but there is no name attached to that or date or anything.
Well, see, that actually makes me think the opposite. Like, it's got to be like so common that like we don't even bother like
that it wouldn't make the newspaper if that happened. Or
I mean, like he's talking about, it's like, oh, you've heard the story, same thing here, like as if it's like just kind of. And I don't know if this is a fault of Dr. Tanny or not, but like he's talking about it like everybody knows this,
right? Like
everybody has like you have a brother who's done this, like you have a your cousin's uncle's second cousin twice removed, right? And like has had this happen to them, right? Like it sounds, I don't know, like because like your point about like there only being like that documented case like after The Exorcist came out. Now I'm thinking, well, then how did Blatty like come up with this like fantastical thing?
It could have been an urban legend, which is my point. Everybody knows that this happens. Everybody knows that has the markings of urban legendry.
Right.
Like what does Snopes call it? Urban folklore is what they say instead of urban legend, right? Like everybody knows this happens. Everybody knows that if you see a car that doesn't have its lights on at night, it might be a gang member who's trying to catch you by when you blink back at them to tell them to turn the lights on. That's their sign that they're supposed to go get you. Like everybody knows this. Everybody knows that people have ended up in ice baths with kidneys taken out of them, but no one has names or dates when any of this has ever happened.
Oh, okay.
No one has ever caught anybody leaving razors for strangers' children in
Right,
candy.
I was going to say that. Yeah,
they've only ever
That's
caught.
been debunked.
They've only ever caught parents poisoning their own children.
Their own children,
right?
Yeah.
They've never caught strangers doing it. They've never caught anybody hiding out under your car and slashing your Achilles tendon with a razor blade. Like that's never. Again, if it happened, we don't have any evidence for it. So somehow we end up all knowing these stories. But and I'm not saying that hysterical. It might also be one of those things that's just hard to measure, right? Because they are rare enough. But so like these hysterical strength incidences that are on this Wikipedia page and other listicles that I found that all say the exact same things. Like this has happened before. I think that's certainly true that people do get hysterical strength, but to the point where we could say that it's happened the way that Dr. Tanny assumes it has happened. I will call BS on that.
Interesting. Yeah. And folks, I mean, like, again, we have listeners, like if you know,
I would love to hear.
That would be, that would be amazing.
Right.
I want to hear about that.
From before 1971, when William Peter Blatty is writing it. I would love to know that. Yeah. But like, again, like the point here is like Chris can feel incredulous about this because he says, oh, you must know this happens. But he doesn't say, I once treated a patient who had the same thing as your daughter, who exhibited hysterical strength. He's like, well, this must happen somewhere. Or I read a study about little girls getting hysterical strength because of this. No, he just says,
he didn't even say that.
No, it's just oh,
Yeah. So
this is the kind of thing that happens.
His ethos, his authority is like out the window.
Right.
Like, because we're talking about in school right now, we're talking about ethos, pathos, logos, right? Like,
I don't know this.
And we might actually like talk about this a little bit later when we're but
I have a lecture on Aristotle coming up, so please tell me.
Oh yes, okay. Well,
please tell me about ethos, pathos, and logos.
Okay. So
I'm
so
taking
a really
notes.
Yeah, a very shortened version right now for the argument that Dr. Taney is trying to put forth right now is he is trying to convince Chris that what is going on is not uncommon. It's happened before, and so what he's going to want to do, right? There's three forms of argument that you can put up, right? You can use ethos. Ethos is like is exhibiting your authority, like you said, Keenan. You could say, I know what I'm talking about because this happened to me. I treated a patient, or he could even have said, like, I read a study, right? Like, I'm a doctor. You believe me because of these things, right? Like, I have authority and I have knowledge of this subject, right? He didn't do that, right?
That's the kind of thing that Klein had done before of when this happens before with the legion in the temporal part of your brain, this changes personality that's documented, trust me.
Right. Yes. So so Dr. Taney is trying to do that, but like he just kind of like rattles off this like what could be, an old wives' tale. We don't know, right? God, I feel bad. It's like hysterical strength and now old wives' tales. I swear I'm not.
Well, what's the PC term for old wives' tales? There must be something.
Fable, rumor, whatever. But he just rattles off this story, right? This big fish story. There we go. This big fish. So he rattles off this story, and he has nothing to back it up, right? And although and he's not even trying to do pathos and logos, and those are the other two. Like, so pathos is you appeal to the person's sympathy, empathy, right? They're pathological, right? And he's even talking about pathological states, right? But you appeal to their emotions, right? And then logos is actually like the weakest one, right? Like if you try to win an argument with just logos, you're gonna lose, because even though logos is like logical, right? Like none of us think that way. None of us argue that way. And none of us win arguments with just logos, right? Like the example we're using here, and oh my God, we've fallen into the Shakespeare trap. But no, we're looking at Julius Caesar, right? And near the end of like in the middle, like right after Caesar's death. Spoilers, guys. Right after Caesar's death, we have those two big, famous speeches, one by Brutus and one by Mark Antony. Mark Antony is the guy who's like, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears, right? But before him is Brutus, and Brutus makes this argument that is basically like all logic and all logos. He's like, it's not that I loved Caesar less, but I loved Rome more. Here's my PowerPoint presentation of why I killed Caesar and why it's a good thing that we killed Caesar. And
it sounds complicated. It sounds like you need a Venn diagram to understand what he says there.
Yeah, right. And then he's like, and I'm gonna in the name of fairness, I'm gonna let Mark Antony speak. That was a bad idea, Brutus. Because then Mark Antony comes in and he's literally holding the fucking body, right? And he lays it out and he's like, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. And he goes like heavy on the pathos, right? Like he talks about, when Caesar was alive and how he remembered him and all the things that Caesar did for Rome and like all this. And he's really tugging on everybody's heartstrings. And that's how he wins. Like he wins it because like not logic, but just like pure like emotion.
And rhetoric, I suppose, because that's what so much, right? Because he has all these rhetorical strategies where he repeats the same line over again, and then gradually they're supposed to know that he's been sarcastic the whole time.
Right. So Brutus is an honorable man.
Brutus is an honorable man.
Yeah. Let's climb out of the Shakespeare.
Oh, hi, Dr. Taney.
Bringing it back to here, Dr. Taney is he's trying to be like, there was a story. There was a story about a woman lifts up a car to save it. Same thing here. And just stands with his arms folded. He's like,
there you go.
There.
End of story.
End of story. Right. But yeah, so he's trying that, and he is not convincing Chris. He is not convincing us. He is not convincing anybody, right?
So I mean, I don't want to call Jack Kirby a liar. I don't know him and he made the Hulk, so the Hulk can come after me for saying this never happened.
Yeah, you don't like him when he's angry. But yeah, okay. So I think that's where we end, right? With him saying same thing here, right? Yes. Okay. So I think we are all done. Is there anything else we missed?
No. We're done.
we are definitely done. Okay. So are you thinking what I'm thinking then?
I think I am, Lester.
Folks, until next time, the power of Julius Caesar compels you. friends, womans, countrymen. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. Oh, wow. That fits perfectly.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's great. And at the end, they're like, oh, yeah, I don't know if you're a tyrant, but I kind of like you, Julius Caesar. And he says, please, call me Caesar.
Call me JC. JC, oh, biblical reference. Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. But that's his title, though.
Is that your title? Is that your name? I don't know.
Julius is his
Julius,
name.
Yeah. This is so stupid. We have gone off on a tangent that's not even funny.
Hey! Let the folks at home be the judge of that.
No, I don't want them to do that. There are no more folks at home now.